I'm Bree, and this is the Mercury Podcast. I believe that words are powerful and that they deeply affect the ways in which we process life. Words can change how we think and feel forever. Thank you for entering this space with me, where I use my words to reassemble perspectives, heal, inspire, and bring joy. Welcome back to another episode of the Mercury Podcast. I'm Bree, and today's group of words that we are going to be dissecting and replacing with new meaning is everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. This is a word that holds so much gravity. I was actually afraid to touch these words because I know for a fact that this phrase really means a lot to most people, and truthfully, myself included, until I looked at it a little bit closer. Hearing those words, everything happens for a reason, probably has helped you to cope or is currently helping you to make sense of what is happening to you right now, and even the world at large, especially in the midst of this pandemic. Life has forced us to lean further into ourselves with so many questions. I feel like every day something happens and it brings a new question to the surface. We all, in our own special ways, are trying to find answers. And we just want to know why. And I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. We don't like not knowing. We don't like to not know. We are taught that knowledge is power and that the more information you know, the better you are more equipped to handle life. But then life happens and we experience the complete opposite. We see this from a very early age. It's been ingrained in us, even in a traditional classroom setting. When you don't have the answer to a question, everybody looks at you strange. You're always expected to know. And you're also not encouraged to ask too many questions. There's a sense of embarrassment that comes with always asking questions. But the thing is, there's nothing wrong with having questions. Questions lead to more questions, but without the pressure of always having to find the answer. And I'm giving that example because I feel like there's a crossover that happens from the conditioning of our minds to always give an answer to something. And very fast. Okay, so you're probably waiting for me to say it. So here it goes. Everything does not happen for a reason. And it is beautifully flawed because reason, by definition, is a statement offered in explanation or justification for something. And we can see that everything that happens in life to you or someone else or the world cannot always be justified. I believe that the phrase everything happens for a reason can sometimes blind us from seeing a way out, of being held hostage by an experience because we so desperately want to find those answers. Every now and again, I will spontaneously share some information with you that I've come across in the past week. I'll call these bubble gums because you can chew on it and spit it out, or you can chew on it and stick it somewhere. It's up to you. So, here's something for you to chew on. In 1972, the psychologist Jerome Kagan posited that when we can't immediately gratify our desire to know, we become highly motivated to reach a concrete explanation. We want to eliminate the distress of the unknown. We want, in other words, to achieve cognitive closure. This term was coined by social psychologist Kuglansky, who eventually defined it as individuals' desire for a firm answer to a question and an aversion toward ambiguity. So, attaching reason gives us that cognitive closure when faced with heightened ambiguity and a lack of clear cut answers, because deep down we want to know, and we want to know as soon as possible. A personal mantra that I live by internally is to know the fullness and the sweetness and the juiciness of life is to know death, and to know happiness is to know sadness. When I attended my first funeral at 10 years old, it unlocked my mind into realizing from a very, very, very early age that there was no logical explanation for sudden events and for life in general. And I thank my family for allowing me to see life in all its bits and pieces when it was necessary for my development as a human being. When my cousins lost their parents before the age of 18, there was no reason that could justify the pain that they went through or what we experienced as a family. And that the fact that life can be so suddenly cut short. And that brings me to this belief that I do not believe the world was created with reasons to teach me lessons at the expense of someone else's suffering, and the other way around. When you can't attach reason, this is where you start to feel shame. And then that shame is converted into guilt towards an event or experience that you're having. We start to say things like, I'm supposed to, I feel bad for not, how could I not have seen? Then we self blame or blame others for not being able to give us that closure and for us to not derive, again, those answers. This also goes for the things that we are born with and we have to live with every day. With this, it can also compel us to spend an entire lifetime trying to attach a reason. When we exhaust our energy to find these answers, we seize on to an idea. And then that idea crystallizes and it becomes a permanent explanation in your head as to why something happened. This action produces a result which influences more of the same action over and over again. And because of it, if you're not careful, you can become held hostage. We stay in a lot of situations because we feel like there is a reason why. So we need to just hang on tight and keep digesting the discomfort. And this is how I know. My heart is beating really fast right now, even talking about it. But it would be remiss of me if I do not share this part of me with you. I survived two really bad car accidents. The first one, I was alone, going within the speed limit. However, due to a roadwork malfunction, it pivoted me into a wall. The car went head on into the wall, bypassing a generator, just barely avoiding triggering off an explosion in an area where innocent lives could have been taken 12 days before Christmas. At that moment, I said, yes, it makes me appreciate life and have more gratitude, but I already had that. I was already a thankful and a grateful person. Then the second car crash was due to a careless driver with my best friend and his family, who I thought would be in my life forever because surviving and overcoming something so tragic. That left me with broken ribs for almost 2 months, sleepless nights, and trying to find the strength to return back to full study mode as I made the decision to continue navigating, completing my degree, and extremely far away from home. I couldn't even tie my own shoes, let alone cook for myself. And my heart was bursting with gratitude that my Nana was able to fly to me and help me work through that and to just feel that love. I've spent years trying to make sense of that pain. And I still don't understand the rationale behind pouring your heart into the soul of another human and selflessly never looking for anything in return and then having life rip you two apart. It goes beyond human comprehension. The dynamic of what we were to this day, no one would ever understand from the outside. The relationship eventually became very unhealthy. And it was clear that there was no more room left for me to stay. And that's when I realized that the car accident and what life was now presenting me was mutually exclusive. For me, it was car accident equals forever. It meant putting each other first, no matter what, because of going through so many life experiences together, the laughs, the cries, the arguments, everything, the partnership over the years. If we could get through that, we could get through anything. But for him, it was something else. And losing me was not as important to him than what he wanted to achieve in life. And the fact that he was going to do anything it took to get what he wanted with no compromise for what I was feeling or thinking. I became a stranger after 4 years and less than 1 day. In less than 1 day, I was able to see where I really stood in his life. In that moment, I needed to take a step back and detach. Detach from the us meeting for a reason and the how we met story. And what makes it even harder are those individuals who come into your life with no prior connections to you and how so quickly they can feel like home when you're not home. This happens to me all the time because I'm never living in the same place for a very long period. And so I have a collection of people that have walked in, that have walked out, that stay for a while, that come back. It's a very interesting thing. I had to take that away and see life for what it was presenting me in the present moment. I had to stop denying my body's signals of telling me that I would no longer grow here in this space. And I had to humble myself and remove my rationale and listen to what life was telling me outside my reasoning and set myself free. And this is why I'm here. And I get to tell this story because I can see now and I can remove the guilt and the shame from something I wanted to work and figure out so bad from a place of so much love, so much love and contentment, knowing that life will present me with something else again to overflow me as I continue to roam free in all my glorious light. And it is with that I segue into a new way of thinking that I'd like to introduce. And that is that everything happens for you to start. Start incites an inauguration, openness, activation, embarkment, setting up, introducing, originating, rising, coming into being, the laying of a foundation, the springing up, seeing light, taking the first step, taking a plunge, making a beginning, and turning something on the inside. After experiencing that loss as a family, in the way in which we did at the age of 10, my parents started saying to me more that as the oldest, it's important that I take care of my sister, that they won't be here forever, but to always remember to enjoy life, to help and love people, Don't take anyone or anything for granted, that God loves us and that kindness always wins. So I've always moved through the world knowing that things don't have a reason, but that you have a responsibility to start doing. If it's a business failure, a personal loss, and this does not always have to mean the loss of a life, a professional setback, the same rules apply. We are not entitled to having ownership over events or their reasons, but we do own what we start doing because of them. Sometimes we are sleepwalking through life, and it's not until life presents us with situations that we cannot derive the answers to that we then are abruptly but gently pushed to start. And my favorite thing of all is that these things define a path forward for you that you would have most likely never have taken otherwise. My stars, my beautiful stars, I invite you this week to start something as a response to what life has presented to you. It could be anything. And while you're doing that, be still and recognize what life is presenting to you right now. Free yourself from trying to find a reason and no longer be a hostage of what has happened to you, but a spark to ignite self-fulfilling moments. Until next week, thank you for traveling to my planet. I love you, I appreciate you, and I am so proud of you. Take care. Thank you so much for listening. And if you'd like to follow me on my own personal journey, let's take this party to Instagram at The Life of Bree. And that's BRE with 5 E's.